At the age of 15, I was at school and I got struck by a vehicle in the school parking lot. And as a result of that, I lost my left arm. And because of that, I became really angry and I got out of church. A few years later, really started getting bad on the drugs when I started going to doctors regularly and getting prescription medication. That led to years, 12, 15 years taking prescription medications, which my addiction just got worse and worse. And it led to me buying street drugs, heroin. The combination of the prescription medications and the heroin and all the other drugs, I lost everything in my life. I completely isolated from my family, and my life just revolved around drugs and alcohol. I had no contact with family. I had been out of church for 30 years. And at one point, my family even put out a missing person on me because they could not find me and they was afraid I was possibly dead somewhere. My life was drugs and alcohol. But after 30 years of it, thank God I finally made a choice to get sober. And only by the grace of God, my brother-in-law, Tim Gammons, knew Brother Jeff Krantz. And he called up Jeff asking if there was a room for me here in Fairhaven Home for Men. Little did I know, nearly a year later, that was the start of my life. I got back in church, got saved. Been sober now for a year. I'm starting school in 2 months, plan on getting off disability and going back to work, but only by God's grace. I owe everything to God, and I'm excited for my future, and I'm just going to continue to move one day at a time.
I believe one of the reasons that we work with people with addictions is when I first got saved, I come from a home that my father was an alcoholic. The truth of the matter is my father was the town drunk. We sent him to many places to get rehabilitation, and he would always come back home and last for a little while in sobriety. Finally, we sent him to a place that had a spiritual emphasis, and through that my father got saved, and from that became a deacon in the church, and life was totally transformed. I saw firsthand what a home could do, because when nobody else could help my father, he got it through a home. Sad to say, you would think that would have changed the way I grew up, that I would have never went that way, but I found my own self in addiction. And of course, I got deliverance through the Lord. The Lord delivered me from that, and I was called into the ministry. And just as soon as I got surrendered to the ministry, I began to go to jails and prisons and work with those kind of men. And being a pastor, I was limited to the time I could spend with each one of those. So Brother Jeff Krantz, who was a member of our church, was a missionary in Europe and came home from the field after being there approximately 8 years. And while he was home, I began to talk to him about my burden for helping people full time that had an addiction. So me and him discussed it, prayed about it, and decided that with the Lord's leadership, we would try to do something on a permanent basis.
Brother Alfred had had it on his heart for 30 years, but there wasn't a structured program for those men. And when I came home from the field, Brother Alfred asked me if I would be interested in trying to get this off the ground. Neither one of us had any idea of the complexity. But he asked me to pray about it, and we did pray about it, and the Lord gave clear direction.
So this is a work of faith. We started the home, then we started to build the building, and of course we didn't have the finances to do that. So we have men that went out of our church and told the burden to other churches, and people began to send money for the construction of the building. If I remember correctly, the first donation was from a church that sent us $10,000 to start with. And we're building as we receive the money. And every phase that we've attempted, the money has come in to do that. Then we've had other churches from Columbia down, and even from as far away as some other states, have come down and helped us in the construction of the building.
Churches came, men came, volunteered their time.
And so everything has been free of labor until we got to roof the building and put the siding on. Our goal, it has been now for about approximately 7 years, is to bring men in on a 3-month program.
Now, when a man comes in, he is surrendered to do 90 days with us. 90 days includes a Bible study every morning, devotion every evening, involves working, and it is working only for Fairhaven Home for Men. Then he needs to make a decision. He's going back home, or is he going to stay with us? We have a second program that's 1 year long. In that program, we get him a job, place to live, give him a budget, and watch him for another year.
Our goal through that is to then build some separate apartments for once they finish the 3-month program, to have a place for them to stay, to get them a job, and to have them there on the property. So that's long-range goals, but we are involved in that now. I think we've had approximately 90 men in 7 years, and we're getting calls every week all over the country are calling us to come to our program, and we can only handle about 5 at the most right now. But the facility we're building should handle up to 20 at a time.
The book of Revelation says this: their works did follow them. And it was talking about people that had died in the Lord, and their work that they did on earth continued on. Fairhaven Home for Men will be that. Those men are going back to homes. They're going back to their wives, their children. If they can get their life on track, it's going to affect their children. It's going to affect their wife. It's going to affect their parents. It's going to affect the people on their jobs. It's going to affect massively everybody that's around them. And if we could be a small part of doing that again and again, maybe their children won't come here. Maybe their grandchildren won't come here because daddy got changed. That is the ultimate goal, that men's lives be changed and everybody around them's lives be changed because that man got help.
It takes dedicated people to have this ministry, and I appreciate the dedication of the people of Life Baptist Church. They're willing. This is a big ministry for our church, and we have volunteers. We have a store that people volunteer to work in. Without the store, financial support of the store, we wouldn't be hurting greatly. They volunteer to do that. Brother Jeff, Brother Philip, even our church, our people of our church, do things to help the men. I mean, come by, fix suppers, let them know that they are supporting them. So you couldn't have this ministry if the church didn't back it and support it. And we're blessed to have that.
The rewarding part of Fairhaven Home for Men is men that make it. When a man has left here, and he may have left in a bad way. He didn't make it. But what God has done in his life has affected him somewhere down the road that he calls me back and says, I'm making it. I'm paying my bills.
The rewards is seeing men get delivered, get saved, get help. Some now have hope in life, whereas they didn't. I mean, we have men come to our home that's sleeping in the woods. And so to see them get back on their feet, get a job, we've seen them get jobs and get delivered from bondage, and that's the rewards. We believe we're on the small end of a big thing. I believe Fairhaven Men's Home will continue and be an outreach that's known around the country, because we have approached it in the right way, and we approached it knowing this was the will of God.